Hornby 002 rail, 60 years old this year, originally introduced in 1959. This is an overview of the track system together with some shots of locomotives in action. The two-rail track system came in bright red and white striped boxes. Let's have a look. Here's a piece of Dublo track. This is actually new, it's never been used, it's come from old stock and I received it a few weeks ago from John Winkley. If you look at this piece of track, what you will see, if I zoom in, is the incredibly detailed grain on the wooden sleepers that was produced. Hornby's super detailing of the track really made it stand out from the competition that was available at the time. At the top is a piece of Hornby 00 two-rail track. It's code 100, so fully compatible with the track below, which is the modern Hornby track. The Hornby 00 sleepers are further apart and gives it a more realistic appearance. Here's a Hornby 00 2/3 straight rail which I've connected up to a piece of Pico track. Here you can see the join. To the left is the Pico track. Underneath you can see Pico have designed a quite robust support system for their rail joiners. The 00 track looks more elegant around the joining area because it hasn't got this huge chunk of plastic webbing that the Pico track has. However, the weakness in the 00 track is that you can end up with track lift because these actual rail clips on top of the sleepers are actually fairly weak, and the rail section, if you look at it at the base, only extends by a small amount. Compare that to the Pico system. Here you've got a different profile on the rail and you've got more robust fixings. The plastic played a part. The Pico track tends to be more of a polythene based type, whereas the Hornby 00 was polystyrene, slightly more brittle. One of the problems with Hornby 00 two-rail track is that it's not reinforced around here where the rail joiner is. So what you get is this. You get this track lift if the track is roughly handled or pulled apart, perhaps when it's being pinned down, because these, you can see them there where the rail joiner slots just next to it, these little plastic lugs that hold the rail, press that down, they do hold the rail but not very securely. I've only got to give it a slight movement and it's popping. So I think this was one of the disadvantages when the track was first launched. It was somewhat weak in the connections between the sleepers and the rail. If you look at the two sleepers, you can see on the Pico side to the left, they're quite shallow. The 00 sleepers are deeper. If you're doing a join, then it's important to make sure you have some support under the Pico sleepers. If you look at the two types of track, then you'll notice here, this is the Hornby power connecting rail. The depth of the Hornby sleepers is greater than that of the Pico ones. This is where the curve connects. To equalise the difference in sleeper height, I've just used a very thin piece of card underneath the Pico track. Here's a selection of some of the two-rail track that was actually available. Missing off this illustration are of course the electrical and the manually operated points that Hornby used. Let's have a look at those. Here's another component of the track system, this time an electrically operated switch point, left hand. This comes in some plain cardboard packaging, but there you have the Hornby 00 two-rail point. There's even a cardboard ring that protects the actual lever that operates the point, and I'll just pan out and there it is. In here, in this large brown rectangular box, is the point motor, a solenoid, that is powered by 3 terminals that are placed at the end. Press the top, see a little button there where my finger's going, and it opens the gate, which is spring loaded, and you just put your end of your wire inside there. So there's no knobs and threaded posts to actually fiddle around with. You just press that, pop the wire in. So quite a neat little device. Here's the wiring to the point motor. As you can see, the wires just simply pass through the spring loaded terminal gates. Here's one of the left hand points. This one's not motorised. As you'll notice, at the end of the switch unit here, there's no solenoid motor fitted. The Hornby Dublo points are small radius curves. You'll also see at the rear of the point there are 3 more terminals. These are used where you're dealing with some isolation of the track power, and they're also used where you use the colour light signals. So they will change the light on the signal depending on which way the point is actually switched, if the signal is actually wired into these. If you prefer, and you like to use semaphore signals, then the semaphore wires from the signal base connect to these 3 terminals. What else was in that package? Well, there was the famous guarantee that Meccano provided with all their products. Alongside the guarantee came quite comprehensive instructions for the points, whether they were hand or electrically operated. This is the first edition handbook of 2-rail track formations with wiring diagrams. It's been quite useful to me because it's shown me how the live frog points need to be set up and how to fit the isolating rails that are needed to prevent you having a short circuit. Hornby Dublo 2-rail track power feeds were designed with the spring loaded terminals, which you can see here. Here's one on a curve, a power feed on a curve. There's a power feed over here on a smaller straight section, but they were attached to various lengths of track so that they could be put in the places which were best suited to receiving the power. The red piece here is actually a suppressor. Earlier power feeds had no suppressors fitted, but obviously with the running of trains there was interference on the radios and the TVs of the day, and obviously Dublo were keen not to aggravate people that wanted to view or listen to broadcasts. Hence we've got the suppressor fitted between the 2 power connecting clips. Later design went for a universal clip which was independent of the track, so you could actually clip that wherever there was a suitable point to place it. Here's an isolating rail. You'll notice with this one that the isolation section has been cut here, and there's the 2 feeds that would just connect to a switch so that power could be put through it when the train needed to be moved. And here's another isolating rail, but this one's got 2 rails that have been chopped to create an isolation. Again, these were used in conjunction with the live frog points, and it was important to follow Dublo's diagrams to make sure you didn't end up with any unforeseen short circuits. The isolating rail that's here has been fitted in accordance with the Hornby Dublo track plan for a circuit where there is a point fitted over here which has the live frog setup. Obviously if I was using the insulated frog setup it wouldn't be needed. I think it was issues like this that made the system more complicated for average railway enthusiasts, average railway or train set buyers and users, and so there was, I believe, quite a move to use other 2-rail systems that were on the market at the time, albeit the Dublo system, if you followed the instructions and did things carefully, was perfectly adequate to run your model railway upon. Hornby had two radiuses for their curved track sections. The small radius was 15 inches and the large radius was 17¼ inches. There was a full system available. As I say, there were points, crossings, uncoupling ramps, various sizes of straight, various sizes of curve, so that all sorts of track layouts could be made. My first ever train set, which I got back in 1961, was a Hornby 002 rail. This isn't the original set, but it's what it actually looked like. My second locomotive, which was a Christmas present, was this one. Again, it's not the original, that was sold way back, but this is one that looks exactly like the one that I had. The track booklet recommends that every siding has an uncoupling rail. You can see it here. It's the rail next to the lever with the yellow paint on it, and on top of that rail is a ramp, and the lever moves the ramp up and down, and in the up position that will disengage Hornby Dublo couplings. Let's give it a try. Ramp up. Well, that worked first time, which is always a good sign when you're trying to film something. In positioning my track, I've not gone for track pins. Track pins can be extracted, but with the 002 rail track system, I didn't want to have to lift it and run the risk of damaging a sleeper by extracting a track pin. So I put these tiny little screws in. Here on the back of the booklet there's a glorious illustration. It's in black and white, but it shows a good variety of Hornby 00 super detail wagons together with some of the locomotives that were made in 2 rail. There's also 3 buildings there, a good shed, an island platform and the suburban station. 3 vehicles parked up by the station, so clearly it's getting plenty of passengers.